I wasn't supposed to be alive to hear the ceremony begin. The stone beneath my cheek was cold enough to burn, and I'd stopped feeling my fingers 3 days ago. Or was it 4? Time didn't exist down here in the dark, just the slow countdown of my heartbeat getting quieter with each passing hour. Thump, 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 thump. Wait, that wasn't right. My heart shouldn't be speeding up. I was dying. Had been dying for weeks now, ever since. Minho smiled at me with those pretty lies and led me down here like a lamb to slaughter. Just need to show you something, Jiwoo. Something important about your family. Idiot. I'd been such an idiot. The ceremony sounds filtered through the stone above me, hundreds of footsteps, the low rumble of voices, the ceremonial drums that meant they were crowning the new kings. Both of them, the northern and southern territories finally uniting after centuries of rivalry, and here I was, buried beneath their grand celebration like forgotten trash. Poetic, really. The unwanted Omega, literally swept under the rug. I would have laughed if I had the breath for it. Thump, thump. There it was again. My heart doing that weird double beat thing it'd been doing since yesterday. Since the hunger stopped hurting and the cold started feeling warm. Since I'd started seeing things that weren't there, shadows moving in the absolute darkness, whispers in languages I didn't know but somehow understood. The healers always said I was strange for an Omega. Too sarcastic, too stubborn, too much of everything I wasn't supposed to be. Maybe that's why Min-ho picked me. Easy to dispose of. No one would miss the problem child. Except, a sound ripped through the ceremony above. Not music, not celebration. A howl. Then another, different pitch. Same desperate rage. The stone trembled. Oh, come on, I whispered to the darkness. My voice nothing but gravel and broken glass. Now you show up? I'm literally dying down here, and the ground screamed. Not metaphorically. The actual stone shrieked as something tore through it from above, claws or magic or pure feral fury. Chunks of rock exploded inward, and I had just enough survival instinct left to roll away before a massive piece of ceiling crashed where my head had been. Dust filled the air. Moonlight actual, real, devastating moonlight poured through the hole like liquid silver. I'd forgotten what light looked like. Two figures dropped through the opening, impossibly graceful despite the 12-foot fall. They landed in crouches on either side of me, and even half dead, even with my vision blurring, I could feel them. Alphas. Not just any alphas. My brain, helpful even in death, supplied their names. Kangdae of the northern reaches, all sharp edges and winter storms. Taeyang of the southern highlands, warmth and golden fury. The two kings who were supposed to be upstairs getting crowned. Instead, they were down here, staring at me like I'd personally offended their ancestors. Impossible, Kangdae breathed. His scent hit me first pine and ice, and something wild that made my dying hindbrain sit up and pay attention. He's not, he is. Taeyang's voice was rough, his scent crashing into me a second later, sandalwood in summer heat and want. I can feel it. Can you feel it? This isn't happening. Kangdae moved closer, and I watched his pupils blow wide, his carefully controlled alpha presence fracturing. We can't both. Yeah, well, I coughed, tasted copper. Surprise. Plot twist. The universe has a really messed up sense of humor. They both froze. Did he just Taeyang started? Make a joke? I finished. While dying? Yeah, it's called a coping mechanism. You should try it sometime, Your Majesty. Kangdae's hand shot out, gripping my shoulder. The touch burned, not painful, but intense, like every nerve I'd thought was dead suddenly remembered its job. Who did this to you? Wow, starting with the hard questions. I tried to sit up, failed spectacularly. What, no hello? No nice to meet you person we've never seen before? Straight to the interrogation? Ji Woo. Taeyang said my name like he'd known it his whole life, and something in my chest cracked open. Your name is Ji Woo. I blinked. How did you? I can hear it. His hand joined Kangdae's, cupping the back of my neck. Like someone's been screaming it in my head for the past 10 minutes. Since the moment he cut himself off, jaw clenching. Since you started dying, Kangdae finished, cold and precise. Our wolves felt you dying. Oh, oh, that wasn't good. I mean, it was great for the whole not dying alone in the dark situation, but the implications, We need to move him. Taeyang was already lifting me, careful despite his urgency. Now, before, the sound of footsteps above, many footsteps. Before everyone realizes their kings just destroyed the ceremonial hall floor and disappeared, I supplied helpfully. Then because apparently near death made me more of a brat. This is going to be really awkward to explain at your coronation, isn't it? Kang Dae's eyes flashed gold. You're our mate. Allegedly, I shot back even as something deep and primal in me sang at the word. I mean, I'm also currently bleeding out, so maybe we table the whole destiny discussion until after we deal with the impending death situation. Taeyang laughed, actually laughed, sharp and slightly unhinged. He's definitely ours. No one else would be this insufferable while dying. I'm a joy and a treasure, I informed him as the world started tilting sideways. Also, I think I'm about to pass out now. No. Kang Dae's command vibrated through my bones. Stay awake. Stay with us. Bossy, I mumbled, but my eyes were already closing. The last thing I heard was Taeyang's voice, rough with something that might have been fear. We've got you. We've got you, and we're not letting go. And the last thing I thought, right before the darkness took me, I really hope Minho's watching from up there. Because revenge is going to be so sweet. But I was already gone. Except I wasn't. Not really. My body went limp in Taeyang's arms, sure. My eyes closed. My breathing went shallow. But my mind? My mind exploded outward like someone had just ripped off a blindfold I didn't know I was wearing. Suddenly, I wasn't just feeling two emotions. I was feeling hundreds. The servants 3 floors up, anxious about the disruption. The guards rushing toward the ceremonial hall, confused and alert. The council members, their panic spiking as they realized both kings had vanished mid-ceremony. And underneath it all, threading through everything like veins of gold and ice, were Kang Dae and Taeyang. Their terror was choking me. Stop, I tried to say, but my mouth wouldn't work. Stop panicking. I'm not dead yet. Still got a few good hours of suffering left in me. His heartbeat's dropping. Kang Dae's voice came from somewhere above me, tight with control that his emotions completely contradicted. Fear. So much fear it tasted like metal. Then we run. Taeyang shifted his grip and I felt the flex of his muscles, the coiled readiness. The northern wing. My people have it secured. Your people? Kang Dae's fury spiked. He's bonding to both of us. That makes this a problem we solve after we save his life. Taeyang was already moving, and I felt the jolt of motion, the rush of air. Fight me later. Run now. A pause. Then Kang Dae's grudging agreement, sharp as broken glass. The servants' corridors. No one will expect us there. They ran. And I hung suspended in Taeyang's arms, trapped in my own head, drowning in everyone else's feelings. It was too much. Too loud. Like every emotion in the palace was screaming directly into my brain at full volume. Make it stop, I thought desperately. Please, make it stop. Something shifted. Like a muscle I didn't know I had suddenly clenched. The flood of emotions narrowed, focused, until I was only feeling 2 sources, Kang Dae and Taeyang. Better. Still overwhelming, but better. In here, Kang Dae's voice, closer now. A door opened, then closed. The sound of a lock clicking. We have maybe 10 minutes before they organize a search. Then you better work fast, healer. Taeyang lowered me onto something soft. A bed. Silk sheets that smelled like sandalwood and smoke. His room. This was his room. I'm not a healer. Kang Dae's hands touched my throat, checking my pulse, and his clinical focus tried to mask the terror underneath. Failed. I'm a king who took basic field medicine because my father insisted. Better than nothing. Taeyang's hand cupped my face, thumb brushing my cheekbone, and his touch sent a spike of warmth through the cold. Come on, Jiwoo. Whatever you're doing in there, come back. We just found you. You don't get to leave yet. Bossy, I tried to say. My mouth still wasn't cooperating. His lips moved. Hope flared in Taeyang, bright and desperate. Doesn't mean anything. Could be involuntary. But Kang Dae's hands were gentler now, carefully checking my arms, my ribs. He stopped, went very still. These are restraint marks, and this. His fingers traced something on my wrist, and his fury ignited like wildfire. Wolf's bane burns. Someone chained him with wolf's bane. Why? Taeyang's confusion was genuine. He's Omega. Wolf's bane shouldn't affect. It does if you want to block a bond. Kangdae's voice went cold. Someone knew what he was, knew what he'd become to us, and they tried to prevent it. A longer pause. Then Taeyang, very quietly. Someone tried to kill our mate before we could find him. Yes. The rage that flooded both of them was identical. A matched pair of fury so intense I felt it in my bones. And maybe it was that rage, that fierce protectiveness, that finally gave me enough strength to claw my way back. My eyes cracked open. Two faces swam into focus above me. Kangdae's sharp features, all ice and elegant brutality. Taeyang's warmer beauty, gold and summer sun, both staring at me like I'd just risen from the dead. Technically accurate. Hi, I croaked. Miss me? Taeyang laughed. The sound cracked and slightly unhinged. You absolute brat. It's part of my charm. I tried to sit up. Kangdae's hand on my chest stopped me, firm but careful. Don't move. You're not healed. Pretty sure I'm not dying anymore either. So that's an improvement. I met his eyes, saw the storm of emotions he was trying to hide. Also, your clinical detachment act needs work. I can feel how terrified you are. He went very still. What? The emotion thing. From before, I gestured vaguely at my head. Apparently dying unlocks some kind of feelings radar. Lucky me. Now I get to experience everyone's emotional baggage along with my own. Taeyang and Kangdae exchanged a look. That's not normal, Kangdae said slowly. Yeah, well, join the club. Nothing about me has ever been normal. I finally managed to push myself up, ignoring Kangdae's disapproving growl. Which is probably why someone decided to murder me beneath your fancy ceremony hall. Who? Taeyang's hand found my shoulder, steadying me. You said a name before. Minho. Just hearing the name made something twist in my chest. Not my emotion. His. Minho's guilt and triumph and satisfied cruelty, echoing in my memory like a recording. Pack brother, I said, keeping my voice light even though the betrayal still burned. Well, former pack brother. Pretty sure leaving someone to die in a sealed chamber violates the brotherly bond code of conduct. Why? Kangdae's clinical mask was cracking, fury bleeding through. What reason could he possibly have to, because I'm broken? The words came out sharper than I intended. Wrong. A black mark on our pack's reputation. An Omega who talks back and doesn't know his place, and apparently now reads emotions like some kind of party trick. You're not broken. Taeyang's voice was fierce, his conviction flooding into me through his touch. You're. A knock on the door. Sharp, urgent. All three of us froze. Your Majesty. A male voice, strained with stress. The council is demanding an explanation. They're threatening to revoke the unification treaty if you don't appear in the next 5 minutes. Taeyang's jaw clenched. Tell them I'm indisposed. They say if you're indisposed, they'll come to you. Of course they will. I pushed myself fully upright, ignoring the way the room spun, because nothing says stable new government like your kings destroying property and kidnapping a dying Omega in the middle of their own coronation. You're not being kidnapped, Kangdae said. You're being rescued. Semantics. I swung my legs off the bed. Mistake. My knees buckled immediately. Both alphas lunged to catch me, their hands colliding on my arms, and the triple contact sent a shock of sensation through all three of us. Their emotions hit me at the same time. Kangdae's fierce protectiveness, Taeyang's desperate need, and underneath it both, a recognition so deep it felt like memory. Mate, ours, finally. I sucked in a breath. Okay, so, the bond thing is real. Very real, Taeyang confirmed. Another knock. Harder this time. Your Majesty, they're coming up. Kangdae looked at me, then at Taeyang, then back at me. Can you stand? Can I stand? Probably not. Can I fake it long enough to be dramatic and mysterious? Absolutely. The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. Then let's go be dramatic. Now you're speaking my language. Taeyang's hand stayed firm on my elbow as we moved toward the door. Kangdae positioned himself on my other side, close enough that I could feel the cold control radiating from him like winter frost. Both of them were trying very hard to look calm, Their emotions told a different story. Quick question, I said as Kangdae reached for the door handle. What's the plan here? Walk me into a room full of people who probably want me dead and hope for the best? The plan, Kangdae said, is to present you as what you are, our mate, and dare anyone to object. Cool, 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 very diplomatic. I'm sure that'll go great. I tested my weight on my legs again. Still shaky, but better. Just so we're all clear, I'm absolutely going to pass out at the most dramatically inconvenient moment possible. Taeyang snorted. At least you're honest about it. Honesty is all I have left. That and crippling sarcasm. Kangdae opened the door. The hallway outside was packed with guards, all wearing the mixed colors of both kingdoms. They straightened when they saw their kings, but I felt their shock ripple through the space like a shockwave, because both kings were flanking a half-dead Omega who looked like he'd crawled out of a grave. Accurate, Your Majesties. The guard who'd knocked, a stern-faced man with northern colors on his shoulder, bowed. His confusion was almost louder than his words. The council is waiting in the throne room. They're not pleased. When are they ever? Taeyang's grip on my arm tightened slightly, protective. We're coming. We walked. Or rather, they walked and I shuffled between them, focusing very hard on not collapsing. Every step sent a spike of pain through my ribs, and I was pretty sure at least 3 of them were cracked. Maybe 4. Math was hard when you were dying. The guards fell into formation around us, but I could feel their emotions pressing against my new senses. Confusion, concern, and from a few darker things, suspicion, disgust. Great. I'd been conscious for 5 minutes and already had enemies. Ignore them, Kangdae murmured, low enough that only I could hear. Their opinions don't matter. Easy for you to say. You're not the walking scandal. You're not a scandal. You're our mate. Again, semantics. The throne room doors loomed ahead, massive and ornate, carved with the symbols of both kingdoms intertwined. Symbolic unity. How nice. The doors swung open. The arguing inside cut off immediately. The throne room was exactly as I'd imagined it from the sounds I'd heard through the stone. Massive, opulent, filled with nobles in silk and jewels, all arranged in careful political clusters. Northern lords on one side, southern on the other, and in the center a collection of older men in council robes, looking like they'd just bitten into something sour. All of them turned to stare at me. The wave of their combined emotions nearly knocked me over. Shock, outrage, curiosity, horror, and underneath it all, from several sources, a cold calculation that made my skin crawl. Your Majesties. The man in the center of the council stepped forward. His robes marked him as first counselor, and his face was set in disapproving lines. You disrupted the coronation ceremony, destroyed property, and disappeared for 15 minutes during the most important political moment in a century. Explain. Taeyang's fury spiked, but his voice stayed level. We found our mate. Silence? Then the room exploded. Impossible. A northern lord, his shock genuine. You can't share a mate. The bond recognizes what it recognizes, Kangdae said, cold as winter. We don't control it. And even if you could, another voice called out, that's no Omega of any respectable bloodline. Look at him. He's half dead. 3/4 dead, actually, I said, because apparently my mouth had a death wish. Let's be accurate about these things. More shocked silence. An Omega wasn't supposed to speak in the throne room, especially not with sarcasm. Taeyang's amusement flickered through the bond. He was trying not to smile. The first counselor's eyes narrowed. Who are you? Ji Woo. Nice to meet you. Sorry about the whole interrupting your political theater thing. In my defense, I was busy dying in your basement. Our basement? A southern lady, her confusion genuine and sharp. We don't have prisoners. Technically correct. You don't have prisoners. You have a very illegal sealed chamber with wolf's bane chains that someone definitely used to try to murder me. I gestured vaguely at myself. Exhibit A. Me. Looking like death's practice run. The emotions in the room shifted. Confusion, mixing with suspicion. Several people were suddenly very interested in looking anywhere but at me. Interesting. This is absurd. A counselor near the back, his anger spiking. You can't seriously expect us to accept this creature as legitimate. We don't even know what pack he's from. Moonstone pack, I supplied helpfully. From the Eastern Territories. You know, the ones you all pretend don't exist because we're too poor to be politically relevant. Kang Dae's hand moved to my lower back, steadying me as my knees tried to give out again. His concern bled through the touch, but his face stayed cold. My mate's pack affiliation is irrelevant. The bond is legitimate. Prove it. The first counselor crossed his arms. Show us evidence of this supposed bond. You want evidence? Taeyang's voice dropped. Dangerous. How about the fact that both our wolves went feral the moment he started dying? That we tore through stone to reach him? Coincidence, mass hysteria, shared delusion. The counselor waved a dismissive hand. The bond between Alpha and Omega is sacred. It can't be shared between two alphas. It's biologically impossible. And yet, Kang Dae's patience was wearing thin, his control cracking at the edges. Here we are. Then let the stone of truth judge. A new voice, female, from the southern contingent. A woman in healer's robes stepped forward, her curiosity sharp and clinical. If the bond is real, the stone will confirm it. If not, she shrugged, then we'll know this is an elaborate deception. Oh good, more magical rocks, my favorite. The stone hasn't been used in generations, Taeyang said slowly. It's dangerous. So is accepting a false bond that could undermine the entire unification treaty. The first counselor smiled, thin and cold. Unless you're afraid of what it might reveal? Trap. This was absolutely a trap. I could feel it in the calculations running through several minds in the room. They wanted me to fail. Wanted proof that I was lying so they could dispose of me properly this time. I'll do it. The words came out before I could stop them. Both Kang Dae and Taeyang turned to stare at me, their alarm identical. You don't have to, Kang Dae said quietly. We can refuse. And then what? Spend the rest of our lives with everyone questioning if this is real? I shook my head, immediately regretted it as the room spun. No. Let's do the stupid magic rock test. At least then we'll know if the universe is just messing with all of us. The healer smiled. Brave or foolish. We'll see which. She gestured to the guards. Bring the stone of truth to the throne room, and someone get restraints, just in case the Omega tries to run when he realizes he's been exposed. I can barely walk, I pointed out. Running seems ambitious. But my sarcasm couldn't quite cover the fear starting to build in my chest, because I had no idea what this stone would show. No idea if the bond I felt thrumming between the three of us was real, or just my dying brain's last desperate fantasy. The guards returned, carrying a black stone pedestal between them. On top sat a crystal sphere that seemed to pulse with inner light, and just looking at it made my new emotion sense recoil. Place your hand on the stone, the healer instructed. If your bond is true, it will glow. If you're lying, she smiled. Well, the stone has ways of punishing deception. Perfect. Just perfect. I stepped forward. Taeyang's hand caught my wrist. Wait. His fear pulsed through the contact, sharp and immediate. Not fear of the stone, fear for me. It's fine, I said, even though we both knew I had no idea if it was fine. What's the worst that could happen? Spontaneous combustion? Already having a terrible week. Might as well commit to the theme. Ji Woo. Kang Dae moved to my other side, his control fracturing at the edges. The stone of truth doesn't just verify bonds, it exposes lies. All lies. Every secret you've ever kept will be laid bare. Good thing I'm terrible at keeping secrets then. I pulled free from Taeyang's grip, ignoring how my hand immediately felt colder. Let's get this over with. The healer gestured to the stone, her clinical curiosity bleeding through so strongly I could taste it. She wanted to see me fail. Wanted to watch whatever happened when the stone rejected me. Sorry to disappoint. I reached out, my hand trembling only slightly, and pressed my palm flat against the crystal surface. Cold. The stone was so cold it burned, and for a heartbeat nothing happened. Just ice against skin and the entire throne room holding its breath. Then the pain hit. Not physical. Worse. The stone didn't just touch my hand. It invaded me, ripping through my mind like claws through silk, tearing open every memory, every thought, every emotion I'd ever tried to bury. I saw myself at 8 years old, watching my mother walk away without looking back. Saw the pack leader's disgust when my omega nature manifested wrong. Too sharp, too aware. Saw Minho's smile the day he led me down those stairs. The satisfaction in his eyes as the door sealed shut. Saw every moment I'd been told I was broken, wrong, unwanted. And underneath it all, the stone pulled at something deeper. The emotion sense that had been growing since I started dying, stretching and testing it like fingers prodding a wound. Show me, the stone seemed to whisper. Show me what you really are. The pull intensified, and suddenly I wasn't just feeling emotions. I was broadcasting them. Every person in the throne room gasped as my fear, my pain, my desperate hope slammed into them like a physical wave. The first counselor stumbled. Several nobles grabbed their chests. Even the guards looked shaken. Stop, someone said. Might have been Tae Yang. Might have been Kang Dae. Hard to tell through the roaring in my ears. But I couldn't stop. The stone had me locked in place, still digging, still pulling, and now it was reaching for the bonds I'd felt forming. The golden thread connecting me to Taeyang, warm and fierce. The silver one linking me to Kang Dae, cold and absolute. The stone grabbed both threads and yanked. Taeyang and Kang Dae both cried out, the sound identical, their shock and pain flooding into me through those connections. And suddenly I wasn't alone in my head anymore. I was in theirs too. Taeyang's memories crashed into me first. A childhood spent trying to prove himself worthy, the weight of a crown he'd never wanted but wore anyway. The bone-deep loneliness of being surrounded by people who wanted his power but never him. And underneath it all, a howling emptiness that had been there so long he'd stopped noticing it. Until now. Until me. Then Kang Dae's memories hit, colder and sharper. A father who'd taught him emotion was weakness. Years of building walls so high nothing could breach them. The suffocating pressure of holding an entire kingdom together through sheer force of will. And that same emptiness, frozen over but no less painful. Both of them, both alone, both aching for something they couldn't name, until the moment they'd felt me dying beneath their feet. The stone pulsed, and the connections between the three of us blazed so bright I could see them even with my eyes closed. Gold and silver threads weaving together, wrapping around my core, and where they met, a new color emerged. Blue, electric blue, crackling with power that definitely wasn't supposed to exist. The stone cracked. Just a hairline fracture, but the sound of it breaking echoed through the throne room like a gunshot. Then the crystal shattered. Completely. Spectacularly. Exploding outward in a burst of light that sent everyone diving for cover except me, because I was still frozen in place, still feeling too much, still connected to two alphas whose emotions were threatening to drown me. Yours, Taeyang's thoughts whispered through the bond. Finally yours? Ours, Kang Dae corrected, sharp and possessive. Finally ours. The light faded, the connection softened, no longer painful, just present, thrumming, real. I pulled my hand back from the pedestal, or what was left of it. The stone was gone, nothing but glittering powder coating the surface. The healer stared at me, her clinical curiosity replaced by something closer to awe or fear. Hard to tell which. Well, I said into the shocked silence. My voice came out steadier than I felt. I'm guessing that means it's real? The first counselor found his voice first. The stone of truth has never broken. Not in 300 years. There's a first time for everything. I swayed, my knees deciding now was a great time to stop functioning. Also, as fun as this has been, I'm going to pass out now. Tae Yang caught me before I hit the ground, his arms solid and warm, and his relief flooded through the bond so strongly I almost laughed. Told you, I thought at him, dramatically inconvenient timing. His mental voice came back, warm with something that might have been affection. Worth it. The bond is verified, Kang Dae announced to the room, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. Anyone who wishes to dispute it can take it up with what's left of the stone. Silence. Then a southern noble cleared his throat. The prophecy. What prophecy? Someone else asked. The old texts. About the three who would come when the kingdoms needed them most. The noble stepped closer, his curiosity sharp. They said the bond would be marked by shattered stone and 3 colors instead of 2. I forced my eyes open, still cradled in Taeyang's arms. Please tell me the prophecy has a happy ending. I could really use some good news right now. The noble's expression was unreadable. The prophecy says the 3 will either unite the kingdoms forever or destroy them completely. There's no middle ground. Of course there isn't. I let my head fall back against Taeyong's chest, because the universe hates me specifically. A commotion near the entrance. Guards moving aside. And then a voice I recognized, smooth and familiar, and absolutely the last thing I wanted to hear right now. Gee Woo. What a surprise. I thought you'd be dead by now. Minho stepped into the throne room, his smile perfect and his emotions completely, horrifyingly blank. Like looking at a wall where a person should be. Everyone turned to look at him. Then at me. Taeyong's arms tightened protectively, and Kang Dae moved to flank us, his fury building like a storm. But I just laughed, the sound sharp and brittle. And here's the murderer, right on cue. Really, the universe has excellent timing. Minho's smile didn't waver. Murderer is such a strong word. I prefer problem solver. His eyes swept over the destroyed stone, the shocked nobility, the two kings holding me like I might disappear. Though it seems I didn't solve the problem quite as thoroughly as I'd hoped. Yeah, about that. I met his blank stare with my own. Want to explain to everyone why you sealed me in a chamber with wolfsbane chains? I'm sure they're all very curious. His expression flickered. Just for a second, surprise. He hadn't expected me to be able to talk. Hadn't expected me to be alive, let alone standing here calling him out in front of both kingdoms' leadership. I have no idea what you're talking about, he said smoothly. I've been in the Southern Territories for weeks. Just arrived for the ceremony. Lie. I could feel it, taste it, even through the blankness he was projecting, because whatever was blocking his emotions didn't quite extend to his words. Interesting, I said, because I distinctly remember you leading me down those stairs 3 weeks ago. Your voice tends to stick with a person, especially when it's the last thing they hear before being left to die. The room erupted again. Seize him, Kang Dae commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos like ice through water. Guards moved immediately, but Minho raised his hands in mock surrender, his smile never faltering. Please, there's no need for violence. I'm happy to clear up this misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? I pushed myself more upright in Taeyong's arms, ignoring how my vision swam. Is that what we're calling attempted murder now? I missed that memo. Minho's eyes found mine, and for just a second, something flickered behind that blank wall. Satisfaction. He was enjoying this. Ji Woo has always had an active imagination, he said, addressing the room like I wasn't even there. It's part of his charm. But I'm afraid the stress of the situation has made him confused. Confused. I felt Taeyong's fury spike through the bond, matching the cold rage building in Kang Dae. Try again. Better yet, try the truth. Novel concept, I know. I am telling the truth. Minho's voice stayed calm, reasonable. I've been coordinating security for the Southern delegation. Ask anyone. I have witnesses for every day of the past 3 weeks. Convenient, Kang Dae said. His control was impressive, but I could feel the violence coiling underneath. And yet my mate specifically identifies you as his attacker. Your mate is half-starved and clearly delirious. Minho's tone shifted, taking on false concern. Look at him. He probably doesn't even remember his own name right now, let alone who put him in that chamber. I remember everything. My voice came out harder than intended. I remember you talking about the prophecy, about how an Omega like me would ruin everything, about how the old bloodlines needed to stay pure. I tilted my head, watching his face. Ring any bells? Or should I keep going? Something in the room shifted. Several nobles exchanged glances, their emotions spiking with recognition. The first counselor stepped forward, his expression troubled. The prophecy of 3. Some of the old families have been concerned about it. They believe it threatens traditional pack structures. Threatens? Taeyong's laugh was sharp. Or challenges their power? Both, a voice said from the crowd. An elderly northern lord, his resignation clear. There are those who would rather see the kingdoms fail than adapt, who believe Omegas with power are abominations. Minho's blank wall cracked slightly. Annoyance leaked through. This is absurd, he said. You're going to take the word of a half-dead Omega over a respected pack member? Someone find a healer. Ji Woo clearly needs medical attention and rest. Oh, I need a lot of things, I agreed. Medical attention, rest. Answers about who else was involved in trying to kill me. I pushed harder against his emotional wall with my new sense, and something interesting happened. It pushed back. Not just blankness, active resistance. Like he was projecting the nothingness deliberately. You're blocking yourself, I said slowly. Hiding what you're feeling, that's not normal. Minho's eyes narrowed. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. I focused harder, and the strain made my head pound, but I felt the wall starting to crack. You're broadcasting emptiness. Deliberate emptiness, which means you're using something to mask your emotions. The healer who demanded the stone test stepped forward, her clinical interest sharpening. Emotional suppression magic. Highly illegal. It requires dark binding rituals and blood sacrifice. Ridiculous, Minho said, but his voice had lost some of its smoothness. Then you won't mind submitting to a scan, Kangdae said. Not a question, a command. Minho's jaw tightened. I don't have to prove anything to you. Actually, you do. Taeyang shifted his hold on me, moving us slightly back so he could face Minho fully. Because if you're using illegal magic, that makes you a threat to both kingdoms, and threats get eliminated. The temperature in the room dropped. Several people took unconscious steps away from Minho. Fine. Minho's smile returned, but it looked wrong now. Stretched too thin. Scan me. You'll find nothing. The healer approached, her hands already glowing with diagnostic light. But before she could touch him, I felt it. A spike of intention, sharp and vicious, aimed directly at her. Don't, I snapped, and pure instinct made me push. Not physically, mentally. The emotional wall Minho had built exploded outward like I just hit it with a battering ram, and suddenly everyone in the throne room was drowning in what he'd been hiding. Hatred. Poisonous, all-consuming hatred for Omegas, for change, for anything that threatened his perfect worldview. Satisfaction at leaving me to die. Rage that I'd survived. And underneath it all, fear, deep, desperate fear that everything he'd worked for was crumbling. The healer stumbled back, her face pale. Several nobles grabbed their heads, gasping. Even the guards looked shaken. And Minho. Minho was staring at me like I'd just ripped his skin off. What did you do? His voice cracked, the smooth facade completely shattered. Gave everyone a preview of your greatest hits. My head was splitting, the effort of breaking his wall taking more energy than I had. But it was worth it for the look on his face. Turns out broadcasting your emotional garbage is harder when someone can yank down your shields. You shouldn't be able to do that. Minho took a step back. No, Omega can do that. Yeah, well, dying does weird things to a person. I felt Taeyang's arms tighten around me, his pride and concern mixing through the bond. Surprise. I'm a freak. But at least I'm an honest freak. Kangdae moved forward, and his fury was glacier cold. Guards, take him to the holding cells, and someone get chains, the wolf's bane kind. Minho lunged. Not at the guards, at me. His hand came up, and I saw the flash of metal. A blade, small and coated with something dark. Poison, probably. Or worse. Everything slowed down. Taeyang twisted, trying to shield me with his body. Kangdae's hand went for his own weapon. The guards started moving. But I was already pushing again. Not at Minho's emotions this time, at him. The telekinetic shove was instinctive, uncontrolled, and way stronger than I'd intended. Minho flew backward like he'd been hit by a truck, crashing into the crowd of nobles and sending half of them sprawling. The blade clattered across the marble floor, spinning to a stop at the first counselor's feet. Total silence. Everyone stared at me. Then at Minho, crumpled in a heap. Then back at me. So, I said into the quiet, my voice slightly unsteady. Telekinesis. That's new. Added it to the list of weird things I can apparently do now. The healer found her voice first. He's manifesting psychic abilities. Multiple psychic abilities. She looked at Kangdae and Taeyang. Your mate isn't just bonded to both of you, he's evolving. The near-death experience triggered something dormant. Dormant, I repeated. Is that code for, we have no idea what's happening, but it sounds better than saying we're completely lost? She didn't deny it. Minho groaned, trying to push himself up. Blood trickled from his nose, and his blank wall was completely gone now. Raw fear radiated from him in waves. He's a monster, Minho spat, pointing at me with a shaking hand. An abomination. This is exactly why omegas like him need to be controlled. Need to be eliminated before they destroy everything. Eliminated. Kangdae's voice was soft, deadly. Like you tried to eliminate my mate. Your mate? Minho laughed, high and broken. He's not your mate. He's a weapon. A ticking bomb that's going to explode and take both kingdoms with him. That's not his choice to make, Taeyang said. No, it's mine. I met Minho's eyes. And I choose not to murder people who inconvenience me. Funny how that works. Guards finally reached Minho, hauling him to his feet. He struggled, but the fight had gone out of him. There are others, he said as they dragged him toward the door. You think I acted alone? There's a whole network of us, people who understand what needs to be done. The first counselor's expression darkened. A conspiracy, a resistance. Minho's smile returned, manic now. And you just made a martyr. The guards dragged Minho through the doors, his laughter echoing back into the throne room like poison. I watched him go, feeling the edges of my consciousness starting to fray. The telekinetic push had taken more out of me than I'd realized. My vision was doubling, and Taeyang's heartbeat against my back was the only thing keeping me anchored. He's right about one thing, I said quietly. If there's a network, they're not going to stop just because you arrested him. Then we find them. Kangdae's fury was still ice cold, controlled but absolute. Every last one. Your Majesty. A southern noble stepped forward, his anxiety sharp enough to taste. If there truly is a conspiracy, we need to consider the possibility that it extends into both courts, into positions of power. The room shifted. Nobles looking at each other with new suspicion. Trust fracturing in real time. Perfect, I muttered. Nothing builds unity like paranoia. Ji Woo. Taeyang's voice was soft against my ear. You need to rest. You just shattered a magical stone, exposed a conspiracy, and threw someone across a room with your mind. You're allowed to collapse now. Can't. Too many people watching. Have to maintain my mystique as the scary prophesied Omega. But my legs chose that moment to give out completely, and only Taeyang's grip kept me upright. Mystique maintained, he said, but his concern bled through the bond. Now let me take care of you. Your Majesty, the first counselor's voice cut through the murmuring. Perhaps it would be best to adjourn. Give everyone time to process these revelations, and allow your mate to recover. He said mate, like it physically hurt him. Agreed. Kangdae's gaze swept the room, and I felt the weight of his authority settle over everyone like a blanket. Council session tomorrow morning. Anyone who wishes to leave the palace may do so, but understand that leaving will be noted. Subtle threat. Nice. The nobles began filing out, their emotions a chaotic mess of fear, curiosity, and calculation. But a few lingered, and their feelings set off alarm bells in my new sense. Satisfaction, anticipation, like they were waiting for something. Taeyang, I whispered. 3 people near the back. They're happy about this. His arms tightened fractionally. Which 3? I focused, trying to pinpoint the sources through my fading awareness. Blue robes, silver clasp, and the one with the scar on his jaw. Kangdae's eyes found them immediately. Lord Sang-wook, Lady Haewon, and Minister Junji, all from families that oppose the unification treaty. What a coincidence, I said. Should we place bets on whether they're part of Minho's resistance club? No need for bets. Taeyang shifted his hold, preparing to carry me properly. We'll find out soon enough. But before he could move, the doors burst open again. A guard, young and panicked, his fear so sharp it cut through my mental fog. Your Majesties, the prisoner, he's dead. The room froze. What? Kangdae's voice dropped to something dangerous. He collapsed in the holding cell, started convulsing. We called the healers, but by the time they arrived, the guards swallowed hard. Poison. Self-administered, they think. He had something hidden in his mouth. Minho was dead. I should have felt something. Relief, maybe. Satisfaction. He'd tried to kill me, after all. But all I felt was exhaustion and a creeping sense that things were about to get much worse. Of course he had poison, I said, because that's not suspicious at all. Just a guy who casually carries suicide pills around. Totally normal behavior. It's not. The healer from earlier pushed past the guard. Her clinical mask firmly in place, despite the horror underneath. Suicide pills like that require months of preparation, specific rituals to make them fast-acting enough to avoid intervention. He's been planning this. Planning to get caught and die? I frowned. That's a terrible plan. Unless dying was always part of the plan. Kang Dae's mind was already working. I could feel it through the bond. A martyr, like he said. Someone to rally the resistance around. Martyrs need an audience. Taeyong's realization hit at the same moment as mine. He wanted to be arrested publicly. Wanted everyone to see the abomination, Omega, using powers against him. Oh, oh. He played us, I said. That whole thing was theater. He knew exactly what I could do. Wanted me to out myself in front of everyone. The three nobles who'd been satisfied earlier were already moving toward the doors, trying to slip out unnoticed. Stop them, Kang Dae commanded. Guards blocked the exits, but Lord Sang-wook just smiled. You can't hold us without cause, Your Majesty. We've done nothing wrong. Yet, I focused on him, pushing gently at his emotional barriers. They crumbled easier than Minho's had. You're planning something. I can feel it. You're excited, anticipating. I pushed harder, waiting for a signal. His smile faltered. You're invading my privacy. This is illegal. So is conspiracy to commit treason. Kang Dae moved between me and Sang-wook, protective. And if my mate says you're planning something, I believe him. Your mate is a freak with uncontrolled powers. Sang-wook's composure was cracking, fear bleeding through. He's reading thoughts without consent, throwing people with his mind. How long before he decides to control us all? Before he makes you dance like puppets? Several nobles who'd been leaving paused, uncertainty rippling through them. I can't control people, I said tiredly. I can barely stand up right now. If I was going to make anyone dance, I'd start with you just to watch you look stupid. Taeyong's amusement flickered through the bond. Wrong time, probably, but I was too exhausted to care about propriety. This is exactly what we feared. Lady Haewon stepped forward, her conviction absolute. An Omega with psychic abilities, bonded to both kings. He could manipulate them, make them do anything he wants. We'd never know if their decisions were their own or his influence. That's not how it works, the healer interjected. Psychic abilities don't override free will. They sense and project, but they can't control. That you know of, Minister Joon-gi added. He's manifesting powers that shouldn't exist. Who knows what else he can do? The nobles who'd paused were now actively listening, seeds of doubt taking root. This is why Minho acted, Sang-wook said, his voice gaining strength. Not out of hatred, but out of fear for our future. An Omega like this, with powers like these, bonded to both rulers, it's too much power in too few hands. And what would you prefer? Kang Dae's voice was silk over steel. The old system, where Omegas are property and power belongs exclusively to old bloodlines like yours? We prefer stability, tradition, not revolution, led by a half-dead boy who should have stayed buried. The words hit harder than I expected. Because part of me agreed, part of me wondered if Minho had been right, if I was a bomb waiting to explode. Taeyong felt my doubt through the bond. His hand found mine, squeezing gently. Don't listen to them. Hard not to when they're making valid points. I met Sang-wook's eyes. You're right. I am dangerous. I can feel everyone's emotions, push objects without touching them, and I have no idea what else I might be able to do. No training, no control, just raw power and survival instinct. Sang-wook's satisfaction bloomed. He thought he was winning. But here's the thing, I continued. I choose not to use those powers to hurt people. Even people who tried to murder me. Even people who are standing here insulting me to my face. Because having power doesn't mean I have to abuse it. I smiled, sharp and tired. Revolutionary concept for people like you, I know. The doubt in the room shifted. Several nobles looked uncomfortable now. You can't trust him, Haewon insisted. He could be lying, manipulating all of you right now and you'd never know. Then test me. I straightened in Taeyong's arms, ignoring how the room spun. Put me under whatever magical supervision you want. Bind my powers if it makes you feel safer. I don't care. Because I have nothing to hide. Kang Dae turned to look at me, surprise flickering through the bond. Ji-woo, you don't have to. Yeah, I do. Because if I don't, this doubt will poison everything. I looked at the first counselor. What would it take? To prove I'm not a threat? He considered, emotions carefully neutral. A binding oath, witnessed and magically enforced. If you break it, the magic kills you. Perfect, let's do it. No. Taeyong's refusal was immediate. Binding oaths are dangerous. One wrong word and an explosion rocked the palace. The floor buckled beneath us. Chandeliers swayed, crystal raining down like deadly snow. Someone screamed. Several nobles hit the ground, covering their heads as the walls groaned and dust filled the air. Taeyong's arms locked around me, turning so his body shielded mine from the debris. Through the bond, I felt his instant shift from diplomat to warrior, every muscle coiled and ready. Kangdae was already moving toward the windows. South wing. The explosion came from the south wing. Another blast. Closer this time. The windows shattered inward, and I felt the wave of heat before the flames became visible. Orange and gold, crawling up the walls like living things. Everyone out! Taeyong's command cut through the panic. Northern exit, move. The nobles scrambled toward the doors, their terror flooding my senses in a nauseating wave. But underneath the fear, from three specific sources, I felt something else. Triumph. My eyes found Sang-wook, Haewon, and Junji in the chaos. They were moving toward the exits like everyone else, but their emotions were all wrong. Satisfied, relieved, like this was exactly what they'd been waiting for. It's them, I said, gripping Taeyong's shoulder. The three from before. They knew this was coming. Kangdae's head snapped toward them. Guards, detain Lord Sang-wook, Lady Haewon, and Minister Jungi, now. But the guards were already overwhelmed, trying to evacuate panicking nobles. And the three conspirators were using the chaos to slip away, moving with purpose while everyone else ran blind. They're getting away, I said. Let them. Taeyong started toward the exit, still carrying me. Keeping you alive matters more than catching them. They just bombed your palace. You can't just let them leave. Watch me. A third explosion, and this time the throne room ceiling cracked. A massive chunk of stone broke free, plummeting directly toward a cluster of nobles frozen in terror. I reacted without thinking. The telekinetic push was instinctive, desperate, and I felt something in my head tear as I shoved the falling stone sideways. It crashed into the wall instead of crushing people, but the effort sent white-hot pain lancing through my skull. Worth it? Probably. Ji-woo. Taeyong's alarm spiked through the bond. You're bleeding. Am I? I touched my nose. My fingers came away red. Huh, that's new. Added nosebleeds to the list of fun side effects. This isn't funny. Everything's funny if you're detached enough from reality. The room was spinning now, and not just from the explosions. Also, I think I'm about to pass out for real this time. Not yet. Kangdae appeared beside us, his face streaked with dust. The fires are spreading too fast. Someone used accelerant. This wasn't just explosives. A coordinated attack. Taeyong's jaw clenched. They planned this. Knew exactly where to strike to trap us inside. They're hurting us. I blinked hard, trying to focus through the pain and exhaustion. Feel that? The fear, the panic, it's all pushing in one direction. Toward the eastern wing. Both alphas went still. The eastern wing is mostly empty, Kangda said slowly. Under renovation, if they wanted to trap people somewhere isolated. Another explosion. This time from the northern exit, the one Taeyong had been directing everyone toward. Screams erupted as the doorway collapsed, blocking the escape route. They're closing the exits. My emotion sense was screaming warnings now. Dozens of malicious intentions converging on the palace from outside. There are more of them, coming from the grounds. At least 20, maybe more. How can you possibly know that? The first counselor demanded, stumbling toward us. His robes were torn, and blood trickled from a cut on his forehead. Because I can feel them getting closer. Their excitement, their bloodlust. I pushed harder with my sense, ignoring how it made my head pound. They're not just trying to kill us, they're enjoying it. Kangdae pulled a blade from his belt, his expression going cold. Then we give them a fight. We give them an exit first. Taeyong shifted his grip on me. The servant passages. They're too narrow for the fires to spread quickly, and they lead to the gardens. The passages are locked from the inside, the healer said. moving to join our group. Several other nobles clustered nearby, looking to the kings for guidance. Only royal family members have the keys. Good thing we're royal then. Kangdae moved toward a section of wall that looked solid but felt wrong to my senses. Something hollow behind it. He pressed something, and a panel swung inward, revealing a narrow corridor beyond. Everyone inside, Taeyang ordered. Single file, no pushing. We move together, or we die together. The nobles filed in, their fear making them compliant. But I felt it again, that spike of satisfaction from somewhere in the crowd. Someone here is with them, I said quietly. One of the people we're evacuating is part of the resistance. Can you tell who? Kangdae asked. I tried to focus, but my head was splitting, and my vision kept doubling. It's getting harder to sort through everyone's emotions. They're all terrified, and the traitor is using that as cover. Then we watch everyone carefully. Taeyang stepped into the passage, still holding me. And trust no one. The corridor was dark and cramped, barely wide enough for two people side by side. The nobles pressed close, their panic making the air thick and hard to breathe. I could feel the walls closing in, could taste the smoke starting to seep through the cracks. Keep moving, Kangdae commanded from the rear. The garden exit is 200 meters ahead, but we'd barely gone 50 meters when I felt it. A spike of vicious intent, so close it made my skin crawl. Stop, I said. Everyone stop. Too late. The noble directly ahead of us, a middle-aged man in northern colors I didn't recognize, spun around with a knife already in his hand. He lunged not for Taeyang or Kangdae, but for me, blade aimed directly at my throat. Taeyang twisted, trying to shield me again, but the corridor was too narrow. The blade was going to hit one of us. I shoved. Not with my hands, with my mind, with everything I had left. The attacker flew backward, slamming into the nobles behind him and sending them all sprawling. But the telekinetic push didn't stop there. It kept going, spreading outward like a shockwave, and I felt the walls around us begin to crack. No, I gasped. No, no, no. The ceiling groaned. Run! Kangdae shouted. Everyone run! Now! The corridor collapsed behind us, stone and dust and screaming filling the air. Taeyang sprinted forward, and I felt his terror mixing with mine, both of us knowing we were seconds from being buried alive. The garden exit appeared ahead. Moonlight, fresh air, safety. We burst through the opening just as the entire servant passage imploded behind us, taking half the eastern wall with it. We tumbled onto grass, gasping, covered in dust and blood. The palace burned behind us, flames reaching toward the sky like grasping hands. Everyone alive? Taeyang coughed, still holding me against his chest. A chorus of pained acknowledgments. Most had made it out. Most, but not all. The attacker? Kangdae asked. Buried, someone said. He's gone. I tried to sit up, failed. My head was screaming, my nose was still bleeding, and I was pretty sure I just used more power than my body could handle. Ji Woo. Taeyang's hand cupped my face. Stay with me, look at me. I forced my eyes to focus on his. Did I just collapse part of your palace? Technically, it was already collapsing. That's not comforting. Wasn't meant to be. But his small smile was gentle. You saved us. Again. Pretty sure I also almost killed us. So it balances out. Kangdae knelt beside us, his hand finding my shoulder. Through the double bond, I felt their combined concern, their fear for me, their determination to keep me safe no matter the cost. The resistance did this, Kangdae said, his voice hard. They're willing to burn everything down to stop the prophecy. Then we stopped them first. I managed to push myself more upright, leaning against Taeyang. But maybe after I stopped bleeding from multiple orifices, that seems like a good stopping point. A howl cut through the night. Then another. Then a dozen more, surrounding us. Wolves, big ones, from the sound of it, and their emotions hit me like hammers. Hatred, fury, hunger for blood. They brought an army, I whispered. The first counselor's face went pale. We're defenseless out here. No weapons, no backup, half our people injured. The wolves emerged from the shadows, circling us. Massive beasts with eyes that gleamed amber in the firelight. At least 30 of them, and every single one radiated killing intent. And standing behind them, untouched and smiling, were Sangwook, Haewon, and Joongi. Going somewhere? Sangwook called out. We're not finished yet. Sangwook's smile was all teeth and triumph. Behind him, the wolves prowled closer, their growls vibrating through the ground. I felt Taeyang and Kangdae shift simultaneously, both moving to shield me with their bodies. Their instincts were identical, protective and absolute, even though neither of them had shifted yet. 30 wolves against 2 kings and a bunch of terrified nobles, I said, my voice coming out steadier than I felt. Wow. Really stacking the odds in your favor there. Very brave. Sangwook's smile didn't waver. We're not monsters. We're realists. The prophecy ends tonight, along with the abomination carrying it. Abomination? That's the second time someone's called me that today. I pushed myself more upright despite Taeyang's warning growl. You'd think you people would get more creative with your insults. Branch out a little. Ji-woo, Kangdae said quietly. Stop antagonizing the people trying to kill us. Where's the fun in that? One of the wolves lunged forward, testing. Kangdae's hand shot out and ice crystallized in the air between us and the beast. The wolf yelped, skidding to a halt, frost spreading across its muzzle. Right. Kangdae had elemental magic. Good to know. Cute trick, Haewon called out. But you're exhausted, both of you. You can't fight all of us. She wasn't wrong. I could feel the drain in both alphas through our bond. They'd been running on adrenaline and determination, but even that had limits. Then we don't fight all of you. Taeyang's voice dropped, taking on a resonance that made the air shimmer. We end this quickly. He shifted. Not fully. Just enough that his hands became claws and his eyes blazed gold. The power radiating from him made several wolves whimper and back up a step. Kangdae followed, his own partial shift bringing silver to his eyes and frost to his fingertips. Together they looked like something out of a nightmare. Beautiful and deadly and absolutely terrifying. The nobles behind us pressed closer together, their fear spiking so hard I tasted metal. This is your last chance to surrender, Kangdae said, his voice carrying across the garden. Leave now, and you'll face trial. Stay, and you'll face us. Sangwook laughed. You're bluffing. You can't protect him and fight us at the same time. Watch us, Taeyang said. The wolves attacked. All 30 at once, a coordinated strike meant to overwhelm through sheer numbers. They came from every direction, claws and teeth and fury. Taeyang met the first 3 head-on, moving with brutal efficiency. His claws raked across one wolf's side, sending it tumbling. Kangdae's ice caught 2 more, freezing their legs mid-leap. But there were too many. Even working together, the wolves were getting through their defenses, getting closer to where I sat with the other defenseless nobles. I felt one wolf's intention a heartbeat before it moved. It broke away from the main fight, circling wide, aiming for my exposed back. My telekinesis was already exhausted. My head was splitting. But I pushed anyway, slamming the wolf sideways into a tree. The impact made me see stars, and fresh blood poured from my nose. Stop using your powers, Taeyang snarled, ripping into another attacker. You're killing yourself. Better than letting them kill me first. Another wolf got through. Then another. Kangdae's ice was slowing but not stopping them. Taeyang's claws were bloodied, but the attackers kept coming. We were losing. Through the bond, I felt both alphas realize it at the same moment. Felt their desperation, their fury, their absolute refusal to let anything happen to me, even if it meant their own deaths. And something in my chest cracked open. Not painfully, not like breaking, like blooming. The bond between the 3 of us, which had been there since the moment they'd found me, suddenly blazed into full life. Gold and silver threads weaving together, wrapping around my core, and where they met, that electric blue power ignited like wildfire. I gasped as power flooded through me. Not my power, theirs. Taeyang's raw strength, Kangdae's elemental control. All of it pouring into me through the bond, amplified by whatever I was becoming. What is he doing? Junji's voice, sharp with alarm. I stood. Taeyang made a sound of protest, but I was already moving past him, past Kangdae, past the protective barrier they'd been desperately trying to maintain. The wolves closest to me froze, their instincts screaming warnings. Here's the thing about prophecies, I said, and my voice carried across the garden without me raising it. They're really annoying. Vague. Open to interpretation. But you know what's not vague? I raised my hands, and the combined power of 3 bonded mates flowed through me like lightning. This, the telekinetic wave that erupted, wasn't like my previous attempts, wasn't wild or uncontrolled or desperate. It was precise. Every single wolf went flying backward simultaneously, lifted off their feet by invisible force and deposited in a neat line 30 meters away. None of them hurt, just relocated, and very, very confused. The garden went silent except for the crackling of the burning palace behind us. Anyone else want to try? I asked pleasantly. Because I can do this all night. Well, maybe not all night. I'm still mostly dead. But I can definitely do it for another few minutes, which should be enough to get really annoying. Sangwook's face had gone pale. That's not possible. You're an Omega. You can't channel alpha power. Yeah, well, I also can't read emotions or throw things with my mind, but here we are. Turns out dying and bonding with 2 kings at once does weird things to a person. I tilted my head. Who knew? Haewon was backing away now, her triumph replaced by genuine fear. He's too dangerous. We have to finish this now. She pulled something from her robes. A crystal, dark and pulsing with ugly energy. The healer gasped. A soul shard, where did you get that? Those are forbidden. Desperate times. Haewon raised the crystal, and I felt the malice radiating from it like heat. If we can't kill him the normal way, we'll rip his soul apart. She threw it. The crystal flew toward me, trailing dark energy. Kangdae lunged to intercept it, but he was too far away. Taeyang was still recovering from the last attack. I raised my hand. The crystal stopped midair, caught in my telekinetic grip. But this wasn't like catching a person or a rock. This thing was alive, pulsing with corrupted magic that tried to burrow into my mind. Pain exploded through my skull as the soul shard fought back, trying to complete its purpose, trying to tear me apart from the inside. Jiwoo, Kangdae's voice, desperate. Let it go. You can't fight that. Watch me, I squeezed. Not with my hands, with my mind, with the combined power of 3 souls bound together. I felt Taeyang and Kangdae feeding me strength through the bond, felt their absolute faith that I could do this. The soul shard cracked, then shattered. Dark energy exploded outward, and I redirected it up, away from everyone, letting it dissipate harmlessly into the night sky. When the light faded, I was still standing, barely. My nose was bleeding freely now. My vision was tunneling. Every muscle in my body was screaming, but I was standing. Last chance, I said to Sangwook and his conspirators. Leave. Now. Before I get creative, they ran. The wolves scattered with them, their pack instincts overwhelming their orders. Within seconds, the garden was empty except for us and the exhausted nobles. I made it exactly 3 more seconds before my legs gave out. Both alphas caught me this time, their arms tangling as they lowered me to the grass. Through the bond, I felt their relief, their pride, their overwhelming need to keep me safe and close. That was the stupidest, bravest thing I've ever seen, Taeyang said, his voice rough. I'm a complex person. My words were starting to slur. Contain multitudes, very mysterious. Kangdae's hand cupped my face, gentle despite the blood and dirt. You channeled our power, through the bond. I didn't know that was possible. Me neither. Happy accident. I let my eyes close, exhaustion pulling me under. We should probably figure out what else I can accidentally do. Make a list. Very organized. Later. Taeyang's lips brushed my forehead. Rest now. Can't. Still people trying to kill us. Very inconvenient timing. They're gone. They'll be back. Then we'll be ready. Kangdae's certainty flowed through the bond. Together, together, I echoed. And finally, I let the darkness take me. But this time, I wasn't afraid, because I wasn't falling alone. I woke to warmth. Not the suffocating heat of fire or fever, but something gentler. Bodies pressed close on either side of me, heartbeats steady and synchronized. One smelled like pine and winter frost, the other like sandalwood and summer sun. Home, my instincts whispered. Safe. I cracked my eyes open to find myself in a room I didn't recognize. Silk sheets, ornate furniture, and windows showing the first hints of dawn. Taeyang's private chambers, I realized. We were still in what remained of the palace. You're awake. Kang Dae's voice came from my left, soft and careful. How do you feel? Like I got hit by a truck, then the truck backed up and hit me again. For fun. I tried to sit up and immediately regretted it as every muscle screamed. How long was I out? 4 hours. Taeyong's hand found mine, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. The healers wanted to examine you, but we wouldn't let anyone near you until you woke up. Protective much? You almost died again. His voice carried an edge. We're allowed to be protective. Fair point. I finally managed to push myself upright, taking stock. My nose had stopped bleeding. My head still ached, but the splitting pain had dulled to a manageable throb. And the bond between the three of us hummed with life, no longer tentative but solid and real. The resistance? I asked. Scattered. Kang Dae shifted closer, his shoulder pressing against mine. Some were captured. Others fled into the countryside. Sang-wook, Haewon, and Junji got away. Of course they did, because that's not ominous at all. They'll be back, Taeyong said. But not tonight. Tonight, they're licking their wounds and regrouping. While we do what? Wait for them to try again? No. Kang Dae's hand found my other one, completing the circuit. We complete the bond. The air in the room shifted. Complete it? I repeated slowly. As in, mate properly. Taeyong's voice dropped lower. Make it permanent. No more half measures. No more questions about legitimacy. A full triad bond that can't be broken or disputed. My heart stuttered. That's a big step, like enormous, possibly life-altering. We almost lost you twice in one day. Kang Dae's control was fracturing, emotion bleeding through. I'm not willing to risk a third time. If the bond is complete, it'll strengthen all of us. Make you harder to kill. Romantic. But my pulse was racing, and they could both feel it through our connection. What if I'm not ready? Are you? Taeyong asked quietly. Not ready? I should have said yes. Should have asked for time, for space, for a chance to process everything that had happened. But the bond hummed between us, warm and insistent, and I could feel their emotions as clearly as my own. Kang Dae's fierce protectiveness, barely controlled. Taeyang's desperate need to keep me close and safe, and underneath it both, a longing so deep it ached. They'd torn through stone to reach me, defended me against their own courts, risked everything to keep me alive. I'm terrified, I admitted, of this, of what it means, of becoming something I don't understand. Then be terrified with us. Kang Dae's hand tightened on mine. But don't run. I can barely walk. Running seems ambitious. Taeyong's laugh was soft, almost broken. Always with the jokes. It's my coping mechanism. We've established this. Ji-woo. Kang Dae turned my face toward his silver eyes intense. I need you to understand something. This bond, what we're offering, it's not just political. It's not strategy or prophecy or any of the reasons the court will tell themselves we're doing this. Then what is it? It's us choosing you. His voice dropped to something raw. Wanting you. Not because fate decided it, but because you're insufferable and brave and make terrible jokes while dying. And I've never met anyone who made me feel less alone. My breath caught. Taeyong's hand cupped the back of my neck, gentle and possessive. You could be powerless, could never manifest another ability, could be everything the resistance claims you are, and it wouldn't matter. His forehead pressed against my temple. We'd still want you, still choose you, every single time. The bond blazed brighter, gold and silver and electric blue, threading together until I couldn't tell where one ended and another began. That's not fair, I whispered, using actual emotions and sincerity. I'm defenseless against that. Good. Kang Dae's lips brushed my jaw. Surrender. Bossy alphas, I muttered, but I was already tilting my head, already giving them access to the scent glands on my throat where a bonding mark would sit. Taeyong's breath ghosted over my skin. Last chance to run. Still can't walk, remember? Ji-woo. Yeah. Consent and clear communication, and all that. I met his eyes. Then Kang Dae's. I choose this. Choose you. Both of you. Even though you're going to be insufferably smug about it. Absolutely insufferable. Kang Dae agreed. Taeyong's teeth grazed my throat, and the sensation sent electricity down my spine. Ready? No, do it anyway. He bit down. The world exploded into sensation. Not pain, but pressure and heat and an overwhelming rush of emotion that wasn't mine. Taeyang's satisfaction, his relief, his fierce joy flooding through the bond and into me. Then Kangdae's teeth found the other side of my throat, and the second mark ignited like lightning. Cold fire and absolute certainty, his emotions crashing into me with the same intensity. The bond snapped into place, fully, permanently, irrevocably. I gasped as power surged through all three of us, amplifying and feeding back in an endless loop. Gold and silver and blue weaving so tightly together, they became something new, something that had never existed before. Through the bond, I felt everything. Taeyang's memories of loneliness ending the moment he'd sensed me dying. Kangdae's walls shattering when his wolf recognized its mate. Both of them, complete for the first time in their lives. And they felt me. All of me. The fear and hope and desperate need to belong somewhere, to someone. The years of being told I was wrong crystallizing into determination to prove them all right for the worst reasons and then choosing to be right anyway. We were laid bare to each other. No secrets, no walls, just truth, raw and overwhelming. When the bonding marks sealed, when the rush of power finally settled, I slumped against them, trembling. Okay, I breathed. That was intense. You're ours now. Taeyang's voice was rough, satisfied, completely. And you're ours, I pointed out. Goes both ways. Kangdae's hand traced the fresh mark on my throat, his touch reverent. Always has. For a moment, everything was perfect, peaceful, right. Then the window exploded inward. Glass shattered across the floor. A figure landed in a crouch, wrapped in shadows that moved like living things. When they straightened, I saw a face I recognized from Minho's buried memories. His brother, the one who'd helped plan everything. And he was smiling. Congratulations on your mating, he said pleasantly. Perfect timing, really. The ritual is much more effective with fresh bonding marks. What ritual? Kangdae's voice went cold. The brother pulled out a crystal identical to the soul shard from before, except this one was 3 times larger, pulsing with dark energy that made my new marks burn. The one that's going to rip your bond apart from the inside. His smile widened. And use the backlash to kill all 3 of you at once. He raised the crystal. Taeyang lunged forward, but he was too far away. Kangdae's ice erupted, but the shadows deflected it. I reached for my telekinesis, but my power was still exhausted from before. The crystal began to glow. Through the bond, I felt both Alpha's terror. Not for themselves, for me. The brother spoke a word in a language that tasted like ash and old blood. The crystal shattered, and the world turned inside out. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as can ever imagine. So do check it out. If that ending wrecked you, hit subscribe. The next chapter drops soon.